want to get to the next page, and we'll start at the top, and we're going to start with Jason. I was hoping that we would get Steve to be able to be on, but when you can praise him and how wonderful and brilliant he is. But, you know, talk to us about your migration into your enhancement request tool.
Well, it's interesting because I think the end of life could be a complete session by itself, because there's a lot of tough decisions. And this is the problem with going first on answering one of your crazy questions, Grant, is that everybody else has way better answers than I do. Then I'm like, oh, I wish I could take it back. But I guess it was just
Greg would just answer again.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, also end of life. So just early on, I didn't really know much about product management. Just took Steve's course from Pragmatic, and I walked right up to Steve and I said, "Listen, I have 1,000, 2,000 enhancement requests dating back years inside of this system. You know, I want to move to a new system. Do I migrate those enhancements to the new system?" And he's like, "Dating back how long?" He said, "You had a fire in the system when you migrated the data, and they all got destroyed." And so that kind of stuck with me forever. As you know, a lot of my product management teams will get overwhelmed with outstanding enhancement requests and suggestions that haven't been able to get to, and that have been dated by customers that are no longer with the company, or the product has evolved in such a way that the enhancement requests are no longer relevant, but they still stayed open and waiting for review. And it just becomes a number. When the number's so big, you just ignore the whole thing as a process. And so I'm actually going through that again with my current company, giving them advice as we move to sort of a suggestion process to say, listen, you have all these outstanding, outstanding feedback items. I know it's tough, but maybe we just kill them all. And if they were important, they'll come back, because we've done so much, change since then.
Who hasn't done that with their inbox, right? I'm going to delete all these things I haven't seen in like 6 months. And if they haven't followed up on it, it probably didn't matter. I actually call that the Cherry Hill Public Schools budgeting process. My school district growing up, they would kill a program just to see if people would make a big stink, right? If they killed a program and nobody said anything and nobody followed up, it was worth killing, right? And so the music department always got funded, so because we were loud.
That's like when you're moving. They say that if you haven't opened a box 6 months after you moved, just throw the box out.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the closet with the put your hangers backwards, and there's all different things. But enhancement requests are one of those places in product that's tough because you keep getting them, and you could argue that
if they're coming from the customer, it's just a matter of, like I said, feedback is a gift. So.
Yeah, well, but if you're not seeing enough of them to make it float to the top, there's a reason for that.
That's true.
So, Paul, with that, I want to pivot to you, because you were the next one. It was the website and analytics to be a cash cow, and convincing your head of product who hired you that was not.
Yeah, so I was working for a healthcare company, and the service we were offering was a benefit offered to employees. And so we had to provide reports and analytics to the HR benefits administrators to show that we were running good wellness and well-being programs for their employees. The head of product hired me, and she's like, I need you to build this website to deliver new reports and new dashboards to our customers that we're going to be able to charge them a lot of money for. I need you to figure out what the price is that we can charge for them, and let's get this rolling. Well, once I started doing a little bit of research our competitor doing, I realized we couldn't charge anything for this. This was just a checkbox that we had to offer, just like our competitors offered it. So I had to come up with a way to convince the head of product, who was actually a physician by training, but had moved into the software world. I had to convince her this was going to be good for competing in RFPs. This was going to be good for customer retention. And this was going to be good for offering the information and telling the story that we needed to tell, but we weren't going to be able to charge any money for it. So I was able to couch that trying to convince her I spoke to a few product people that I know from around the product scene in New York City that I see all the time. And so one of them actually had a really good idea. He said, come up with ideas for once you build this, what are upsells that you can actually charge for on this new website that may not be available day one that you go live, but you can convince the head of product 6 months in, a year in, we can start charging for these advanced analytics or these deep dive drill down analytics, and eventually we'll make money on it, just not right away.
Did you find those advanced analytics?
Yes, I did. I was able to come up with the data that we were providing in the dashboards and the reports was very high level.
Mm-hmm.
But I came up with this idea that if they wanted to break it down either by geographic location, break it down by type of employee, or just break it down even further into like age categories of the data that we were showing them, that's something that they'd be willing to pay a little extra for, to be able to get into those advanced analytics.
It's almost like product-led growth. Almost like product-led growth. Give them a little to whet their appetite for free, and then find the things they value that they're going to spend a little more money on. Before we get back to Greg and his the credibility and trust aspect, I want to, John and Monica, you guys have been quiet. I'd love to get your take. We'll start with John. Where do you see the tough decisions? Where do they come from? What have you dealt with?
Yeah, so the hard thing for me to get used to at Google is that we have the inverse problem. So like the default expectation is that you'll kill something and you have to prove why you're not gonna. So like my boss is the guy who launched and then later killed Inbox. And that sort of pattern, obviously there's a Google graveyard. So that pattern obviously repeats itself at Google in ways that people make fun of. But like, you have to justify the continued existence of the thing using data, using metrics, using customer feedback or users in the case of the free part. So it is definitely a mindset shift. I haven't had to deal with the fallout from executives of killing something because I had to convince them to keep it in the first place, if that makes sense. It's a very strange shift. No,
I love that. It actually reminds me, do you guys know iCIMS, the recruiting platform? I was talking to Colin Day, who's the founder. Now he was the CEO. He's now the chairman. They're owned by Vista. And we were talking about growth and that type of stuff. And they had a not to do award. They gave awards to people for coming up with ideas of things they should stop doing. It sounds like that's the flip that you had as you got to Google is that, you have to convince them to keep doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's really crazy.
But it's good, right? If you can have a culture.
Yeah, because if you have, again, as you were going to say, if you have that culture, then you end up focusing on the things that are the biggest multipliers ultimately.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Intuit used to have a philosophy that if a huge idea was killed before it went to market because it was deemed to not be any good, like they would give out awards for a huge thing that was killed that would save the company a lot of money by not actually developing it and bringing it to market.
But think about that concept. I mean, you talk about how much it costs to kill a product, and I found the research. It was in Innovative Solution. 40% of all products that get started in an NPD process don't make it out of that process. They just keep either living in the sort of the build trap, or they just get killed before they get launched. And of the 60% that make it to market, 40%, 60 don't make it out. Of the 40% that do, they don't make an ROI. And so it's 76%, 3 out of 4. And think about how much money and time is wasted on things that don't ever either make it to market or make a return. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, one of the ways a buddy of mine, Scott Selhorst, is a product genius in my mind. It taught me about this. You have how confident are you in your assumptions about product X, right? It's a bunch of assumptions, or feature X, or whatever the thing is, all the way up, from gut feel all the way to proven research, first party we've done. And then how expensive is it going to be if you're wrong? Yeah. And that's sort of this 2 by 2. And if you are not terribly confident and it's going to be really expensive if you're wrong, you pay to learn.
Yeah.
And, so you bringing your confidence up in that thing, or maybe you find ways to reduce the expense of being wrong.
Well, and it's sort of possibility versus plausibility. And to your point, the impact of what happens if it doesn't. Monique, I want to give you a chance. Do you have any comments on tough decisions? You're relatively newer to the product sphere. Where have you faced? What type of tough decisions have you faced?
I haven't been involved in any end of life of product decisions yet, but definitely end of life of feature decisions. We recently killed a feature that our customers love. The toughest decision was not dealing with leadership, because leadership was also convinced that we should definitely kill that feature, because I work on iOS products and Apple doesn't support that feature. So it's not a standard feature that we can support. So the problem was from the customers end, because they love that feature, they use that feature, it's really useful for them, it makes their life easier. So it was, how can we convey that this feature is going to end for them and they should find another workaround that is less uh, it's not as easy as the other feature that used to be, or it isn't going to make their life as easy as the end of life feature that we were thinking about. So we just had to make a decision then and send the communication a few months before that we are going to kill this in the coming releases due to the following changes from Apple, and it's not something that we are responsible for, but we just have to make that hard decision. I still get calls from customers asking about, "Hey, why do you kill that feature? I really love that feature." I actually have a call next week to discuss about why we killed that and how we can provide them with a workaround and how we can use it.
It's interesting, and it's actually a perfect segue back to Greg, because Greg had the feature that he was, or the product that he had, the executive had them do, and how do you build the trust? You're talking about trust with the customer. Greg was talking about trust internally with the development organization. I'd love to get your take, Greg.
Yeah, this was a case at a professional financial services company. They had a Keymark magazine that they would give out to all their professional users, and it was and we all knew it was a coffee table, document. It's like, it's that status, hubris type of thing. And the executive says, we need to make this into a digital magazine. We have to make it into a digital magazine, even though they're going to ship all the paper magazines anyway. And we're like, okay. And just, no matter what conversations you have, you have to do this. And it's like, we're never going to make money on it. Nobody's ever going to read it. All the research we did to all of the, the customer segments, we're not going to read it. But it was one of those, like, you have to do it. So, you have to pull your development teams together, your marketing, your creatives, design guys, all of them, and you're just going to move forward to do it, knowing full well that there is no customers. I mean, the customer base was, when we launched it, after 6 months, our customer base was in the low teens, and just actually subscribed to it versus like actually read it. Even
That's about understanding the
product
problem.
was absolutely beautiful. It was spectacular. It was a variation of something else we already had done, but it was spectacular. But balancing that, you have the developers kind of questioning all the time, like, why are we doing this? And you put you as the product lead, it kind of puts in this very delicate situation of, like, you have to, you have the executives like, we really want this, customers really want it, all those things, and the developers going, do we really, what are we doing? And it puts you in a really hard situation, very hard.
But that's about also understanding the problem you're solving. That table, coffee table book was solving a problem for people who were either designed to have it there to show them they have it, or something for somebody to read when they were there,
Right.